Good morning. It's day 43, 8:59 a.m. This morning our prayer will be given by Daniel Madsen, a nephew to Senator Madsen. He's from Rockwell Charter High School, and Senator Madsen will give us the pledge. All arise.
Our kind, most gracious Father in heaven, we're grateful for the freedoms we enjoy in this great land which allow us to govern ourselves. In particular, we are grateful for our great state of Utah and the people who live here. We recognize that it is the citizens of this state who have duly elected these lawmakers to represent them. May the senators not forget who elected them in their representative offices. We recognize the time, effort, and sacrifice they give in serving the people of the state. May the senators here today know the appreciation we, the people, have for their service. We ask that thy spirit will be with the senators today, that they will be able to pass those bills that will best help the people of Utah. May the senators' minds be made clear to understand and detect any unintentional consequences of these bills which may limit the rights of the people of Utah. We also think that ask that thou will bless the people of this great state with safety and protection. We say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to the symbol of our nation, our sovereign nation made up of several sovereign states. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Senator Madsen. Roll call.
Senator Adams. Bramble. Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
Here. President declares we have a quorum with 24 members present, ready to do business. Communications.
Mr. President, the House concurred in the Senate amendments and passed First Sub HJR 11, Joint Rules Resolution on Budget Process Amendments by Representative Wilson, and it is transmitted for the signature of the President.
This bill will be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Further communications?
Mr. President, the House passed as substituted Third Sub HB 134, Firearm Safety Amendments by Representative Eliason, and as substituted First Sub HB 138, Underground Petroleum Storage Tank Amendments by Representative Eliason, as substituted and amended First Sub HB 168, School and Institutional Trust Lands and Funds Management Provisions by Representative Brown, as amended HB 174, Uniform Powers of Appointment Act by Representative Snow, HB 176, Food Handler Permit Amendments by Representative Eliason, as substituted First Sub HB 177, Juror and Witness Fees Amendments by Representative Stratton, HB 188, Court Security Revisions by Representative D, as amended HB 206, Driver License Testing Revisions by Representative Eliason, as substituted and amended First Sub HB 344, Incorporation Election Amendments by Representative Cox, As amended, HB 370, Canal Safety Amendments by Representative Johnny Anderson. As substituted, second sub, HB 401, Utah Medicaid Program by Representative Dunnigan. HB 409, Statewide Education Coordinating Committee by Representative Eliason. HB 423, School District Post-Employment Health Insurance Benefit Amendments by Representative Eliason. As amended, HB 425, State Educational Sovereignty Act by Representative Eliason. As amended, HB 428, Veteran Benefit Assistance Disclosure by Representative Cosgrove. As substituted, first sub, HJR 18, Joint Rules Resolution on Performance Notes by Representative Chavez Hauk. These bills are transmitted for consideration.
These bills, having been read for the first time, will be referred to the Rules Committee. Any other communications? Okay, introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 2, Public Education Budget Amendments, Senator Hilliard. Senate Bill 3, Current Fiscal Year Supplemental Appropriations, Senator Hilliard.
Senator Hilliard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move under suspension of the rules that Senate Bill 2 and Senate Bill 3 be placed on the top of the second reading calendar, which I planned in to circle until 11 o'clock this morning, so people have a chance to read it. I have not seen on your desk the directory that we had this morning in leadership, and I want to make sure everyone gets that, so you can look through this directory and then the House bills and Senate bills identify those items that you're most concerned about to make sure we get them they're correctly designated. That's my motion.
Okay, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
If I may, Mr. President, I'd also say that we plan on doing the House bills this afternoon. Once we get these two base budgets done through the House and the Senate, then our plans, as soon as we get that done, to start on the fiscal note bills with the goal of having them all done by Wednesday at noon so that our staff can start putting the budget together, the final types of things that we need to do and work on the bill of bills.
Okay. Senator Knudsen, are we ready to, I'll recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that the following bills be lifted from the Rules Committee and placed on the second reading calendar below Senate Bill 3. The following bills are as follows. Second substitute, House Bill 44. House Bill 192, second substitute, House Bill 367, House Bill 390, House Bill 102, first substitute, House Bill 155, second substitute, House Bill 286, first substitute, House Bill 168, first substitute, House Bill 356, House Bill 72, House Bill 426, second substitute, House Bill 141, HJR 17, seventh substitute, House Bill 105, first substitute, House Bill 157, House Bill 148, House Bill 126, first substitute, House Bill 357, HJR 6, second substitute, House Bill 342, first substitute, House Bill 84, HJR 21, second substitute, House Bill 109, first substitute, House Bill 137, second substitute, House Bill 117, House Bill 276, HCR 3, first substitute, House Bill 392, second substitute, House Bill 49, House Bill 404, House Bill 143, first substitute, House Bill 265, HCR 5, House Bill 164, first substitute House Bill 128, House Bill 149, HJR 20, House Bill 156, and finally House Bill 325.
Discussion to that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Senator Van Tassel.
Personal privilege, please.
Granted.
Thank you. I have up in the gallery on the west side the Altamont Longhorns, high school from Altamont, Utah, this year visiting. If they'd all stand, I'd like to recognize them. They made it through the storm. Thank them for coming.
Okay, we're going to go to the consent calendar now. Okay, we have, before we address bills on consent, we have one more communication.
Mr. President, the House requests return of SCR 3, concurrent resolution on the School of Dentistry serving underprivileged children, by Senator Jones for reconsideration.
At what? Does Senator Jones know about this? Senator Jones, are you aware of this? That the House wants SCR 3 returned?
Yes, I think there was a technical issue with it.
You're okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We'll go ahead and return that to the House. All right, on consent this morning we have Hilliard, Okerlund, Van Tassel, and Hilliard, Bramble, Hilliard, Jenkins, Knutson, Vickers, Bramble, Christensen. House Bill 19.
House Bill 19, electric vehicle battery charging service amendments. Senator Okerlund.
Senator Okerlund.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 19 is a bill that encourages the infrastructure necessary for electric vehicles by eliminating unnecessary government regulations. Under current law now, only entities regulated as public utilities and electric corporations are able to sell electricity to the public. This bill allows entities to sell electricity to charge electric vehicles without being regulated as public utilities or electric corporations. It would open up the market for electric vehicle charging stations, resulting in more public stations around the state, and expanding the network of charging stations will give electric vehicle drivers the ability to take longer trips and give more people the confidence to purchase electric vehicles. It's based on a rule requested by Rocky Mountain Power, which was recently approved by the Utah Public Service Commission. This rule clarifies that entities reselling electricity solely for the purpose of charging electrical vehicles are not subject to utility regulation. Codifies this policy into state law and provides the same surety to those served by other utilities across the state. It sends a message that Utah is open for business for electric vehicles, and we're serious about cleaning up the air in the state. And I would move that House Bill 19 pass.
The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. House Bill 19 having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. First substitute House Bill 199.
First substitute House Bill 199, Park Model Recreational Vehicles. Senator Van Tassel.
Senator Van Tassel.
Thank you very much. House Bill 199 creates within our code a new model of recreational vehicle that is coming and getting to be quite popular. They're called park model homes. They are truly an RV, but they can't exceed 400 square feet. If they do, they come into HUD requirements. This just merely sets up a titling process and it allows for fees and for the vehicles to be registered. With that, I would make a motion that we pass HB 199.
First substitute, House Bill 199.
Yes.
The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. First substitute, House Bill 199, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 349.
House Bill 349, repeal of transportation-related funds. Senator Hilliard.
Senator Hilliard.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's interesting, when we were approached with all these funds to close, we said put them in one bill. Found out we couldn't because there were different topics, but this bill has 3 funds we're repealing. First is the litigation account for highway projects. It was created to pay litigation expenses filed against the state on highway projects. It's never had a balance or any financial activity. The second is the Mountain View Corridor subaccount of the litigation account for highway projects. We gave them $5 million to start out with. Most of the money was swept out during the Great Recession, but not after earning some interest. We currently have $158,534, which will go into the TIF, so it'll stay in the Transportation Fund. Third is the Aeronautic Construction Revolving Loan Fund. Intended to be a loan fund for airport construction. We've never funded it. It's not been used, never had any balances, so that'll be repealed as well. Call for question on the bill.
The question is, shall House Bill 349 pass? The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye.
Aye.
Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays to the question, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. House Bill 349, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in an open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Senator Hilliard, did you want to encircle House Bill 380?
I would so move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This one closes out a Housing Relief Expendable Special Revenue Fund. It was created to grant money to buyers of new residents to stimulate the housing industry. The fund was temporary in nature and has had no financial activity since 2011, has a 0 balance. Call question on the bill.
Question is, shall House Bill 380 pass? The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. House Bill 380, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes. Shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. First substitute, House Bill 405.
First substitute, House Bill 405, post-secondary school state authorization. Senator Bramble.
Senator Bramble.
Thank you, Mr. President. In 2010, federal regulations went into effect for post-secondary schools to qualify for Title IV funds. These are the grants and loans to students. In 2011, we tightened that up. We passed Senate Bill 210 to address the requirements and facilitate post-secondary schools obtaining Title IV funds. But then the post-secondary schools came back and they said, we're not sure that the regulations are sufficient to qualify them for the Title IV funds, so this bill addresses those concerns. It also addresses when out-of-state schools need to obtain state authorization. This really is in a series of bills now to weed out the bad actors and provide authorization for post-secondary schools to comply with federal regulations. With that, Mr. President, I call the question.
And the question is, shall first substitute House Bill 405 pass? The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. First substitute House Bill 405, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 386.
House Bill 386, repeal of Utah History Endowment Fund. Senator Hilliard.
Senator Hilliard.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was created to provide revenue to qualifying organizations to enable them to create their own history endowment funds. But no financial activity since 2010. The balance is $100, and that'll go into the general fund unless Senator Robles gets it first. She didn't hear me. She didn't hear me. Call for question on the bill.
And the question is, shall House Bill 386 pass? The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye.
Aye.
Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. House Bill 386, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 340.
House Bill 340, local district boundary adjustments. Senator Jenkins.
Senator Jenkins.
Thank you. We have a issue up in Ogden where a local water district, Bonavista Vista Water, which I was chairman of at one time, bills water for Ogden City. Ogden City furnishes the water, but it's not part of their municipal boundary. And so the district, even though they don't deliver it, they bill for it. And they're tired of doing it. Over the years, they've said, boy, we'd like to get rid of that thing. So what this does, this bill authorizes a municipality and a local district to adjust the boundaries of the local district within the expansion area identified in the municipality annexation policy plan. And that's what this is all about. They're just trying to align some boundaries. The law doesn't look at that well, so this adjusts that. So with that, I'd call a question.
And the question is, shall House Bill 340 pass? The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the legislation of the bill. House Bill 340, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 194.
House Bill 194, Public Safety Retirement Conversion Window. Senator Knudsen.
Senator Knudsen.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 194, Public Safety Retirement Conversion Window, is a bill that basically opens the window for conversion between the public safety contributory retirement system and the public safety non-contributory retirement system. This conversion window has been open 6 different times since its original passage. There are exactly 23 police departments who employ a total of 110 officers in total that have not opted in yet, and there's a growing desire for this avenue to be provided. And that is what this window opening will be, is an opportunity for these officers of the cities and towns that are affected by it that will occur. The window will open for 6 months, July through December. I move, Mr. President, that House Bill 194 pass.
Thank you. The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. House Bill 194, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Second substitute, House Bill 113.
Second substitute, House Bill 113, Pharmacy Benefit Manager Amendments. Senator Vickers.
Senator Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill started out to be a very contentious bill, and over a lot of negotiation during the session became something that was completely agreed upon by all the parties and all the stakeholders. It requires some certain contractual arrangements between pharmacy benefit managers and pharmacies, specifically dealing with MAC pricing, or maximum allowable cost pricing, with generic medications. Bottom line, it requires the pharmacy benefit managers to update these lists weekly, and to give the pharmacies an opportunity to appeal a decision based on that. There's a lot of volatility in the generic market right now. This brings some stabilization and ensures that the profit margins are adequate and allow the pharmacies to continue to operate, and then the pharmacy benefit managers are willing to cooperate with the pharmacies. So with that, I would move that second substitute, House Bill 113, pass.
The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye.
Aye.
Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. Second substitute, House Bill 113, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes. Shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. First substitute, House Bill 347.
First substitute, House Bill 347, Insurance Coverage for Infertility Treatments. Senator Bramble.
Senator Bramble.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill authorizes, at the discretion of the insurer, not the insured, the use of the value of the adoption indemnity benefit for an infertility treatment. What that means is there's currently a provision for adoption indemnity benefit is $4,000. This would allow an insurer, it's a permissive, it's not a mandate, but it would permit an insurer to use that adoption indemnity benefit for the purposes of covering some of the costs of infertility. Mr. President, I call the question.
And the question is, shall first substitute House Bill 347 pass? The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. First substitute, House Bill 347, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 384.
House Bill 384, concussion and head injury amendments. Senator Christensen.
Senator Christensen.
Hold on, Mike. Yes, hold on, please. This bill basically makes a technical correction and adds a word in there that wasn't in there before. Very simple.
Okay.
And I move that HB 384 pass.
The President has determined that a quorum is present. Those in favor of the question say aye. Does the President hear a single dissenting nay to the question? Hearing no nays, I will direct that a unanimous vote of the senators present be cast and recorded in favor of the bill. House Bill 384, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Okay, that completes our consent calendar today. We'll now go to the second reading calendar. So, Senators, as you're presenting House bills, we have the third reading calendar. But if the bill doesn't receive any negative discussion, then I think it's okay that we pass it across. Although we do have the third reading calendar, so we have a second look at things. So if we need to look at, have a second look at a bill, let's make sure we pass it to third. First up will be Senate Bill 2.
Senate Bill 2, Public Education Budget Amendments. Senator Hilliard.
Senator Valentine, would you make a motion to circle?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to circle.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? And that motion passes. Senate Bill 3.
Senate Bill 3, Current Fiscal Year Supplemental Appropriations. Senator Hilliard.
Senator Valentine.
Again, motion to circle. Sponsors off the floor.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Second substitute House Bill 44.
Second substitute House Bill 44, Interstate Electric Transmission Lines. Senator Bramble.
Senator Bramble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd first like to move amendment number 1, dated March 10th at 8:44 a.m. This amendment clarifies that nothing in this bill may be interpreted to conflict with FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission rules.
Okay. To the motion to amend, Senator Weiler.
Will the sponsor of the amendment yield?
Would you yield, Senator,
yes,
Senator
I will.
Bramble? Go ahead.
I'm just curious, if I run a bill that's clearly unconstitutional and I amend it and say this bill is not intended to be unconstitutional, would that make the bill not unconstitutional?
That sounds more like a rhetoric question. This bill has no constitutional note on it.
But if the bill clearly violates FERC, but I amend the bill to say it's not intended to violate FERC, does that then prevent it from violating FERC?
Again, that's a rhetoric question because this we can get into the substance of the bill, but this amendment is intended to clarify that this is upstream of the FERC application process.
Senator Weiler?
Well, doesn't this amendment purely highlight the fact that there is a problem and rather than fixing the problem?
Senator Bramble?
The answer is no.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion on the motion to amend?
Mr. President, my intent is to circle the bill after we get this, if this amendment passes, and one additional amendment, then to circle the bill and continue the discussion.
Okay. Is that your summation?
Sure.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Now to the bill. Senator Bramble.
I would move that in the amendment, I'll move to circle right now, then I'll come back with that later. Thank you.
Okay, motion to circle. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. House Bill 192.
House Bill 192, Initiative and Referendum Petition Amendments. Senator Dayton.
Senator Dayton. On House Bill 192.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move to circle.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. The bill is circled. Second substitute, House Bill 367.
Second substitute, House Bill 367, Physical Therapy Scope of Practice Amendments. Senator Weiler.
Senator Weiler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Second substitute, House Bill 367, allows physical therapists to perform manual therapy called trigger point dry needling. Dry needling is a physical intervention that uses filiform needle to stimulate trigger points, diagnose and treat neuromuscular pain and functional movement deficits. It is based upon Western medical concepts that require an examination and diagnosis and treat specific anatomic entities selected according to physical signs. Dry needling is not acupuncture. It is a modality that helps relieve neuromuscular pain and movement deficits. As a physical therapist must have knowledge, skill, and ability and documented competency to perform an act that is within the physical therapist's scope of practice. The competency is achieved by 300 hours of study that includes 250 supervised treatments and 54 course hours. DOPL is then tasked with verifying and registering this added skill. Before a PT can dry needle, he or she must have graduated from a physical therapist school and practiced for 2 years and then take the course. Physical therapists under this bill may not advertise or market that they do any type of acupuncture therapy. House Bill, second substitute, House Bill 367, is a compromise bill between the Utah Medical Association, the Utah Association for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, and the Utah Physical Therapists Association. And with that introduction, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions about second substitute, House Bill 367.
Senator, there's an amendment that's unadopted. Are you making amendment?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I'd like to make that amendment at this time. Move that amendment at this time.
We have a motion to amend the bill with amendment number 1. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now, is there any more discussion based on the bill and the amendment? Senator Weiler?
No, I don't have. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Senator Henderson to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to translate a little bit. This is very simple. Physical therapists treat physical problems like when you have a knot. When you have a knot in your neck, for example, they use this needle to insert into the knot. It elicits a spasm that then relaxes the knot. This is just simply another tool in the toolbox like e-stim or ultrasound or any of those other things that a physical therapist may or may not use to treat these sorts of conditions. I'm totally in favor of this. I do have a bit of a conflict. We have a physical therapy business. My husband is a physical therapist. He does not practice dry needling, but this is very safe, and I am wholeheartedly in support of this bill. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Valentine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I also support the bill. In the past, I have had concerns about expansion of scope where it didn't seem to be warranted. This one does seem to be warranted. This seems to be a practice that is very well accepted and is not as invasive as some of the other ones that I've had concerns about. So I support the bill.
Senator Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would likewise like to stand in support of this bill. I've been the beneficiary of this treatment many times over the years. The physicians and nurse practitioners that have done this on me sometimes say it's like trying to drive a needle into a marble when they're trying to get it. It's very hard. Those knots can be extremely painful, but the relief is amazing. And so I hope that this is available to more people. I went years without knowing this is even available, and it gives such relief and for such serious pain that I hope we adopt this for the well-being of many in our state.
Okay. Any further discussion? Senator Weiler.
Thank you. As a summation, I'd like to just add that the amendment merely clarifies that DOPL can charge a fee for the registration that the bill requires. And with that, Mr. President, as permitted by the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3-reading requirement.
Those in favor of the question say aye.
And under
Motion
suspension
passes.
Thank you. And under suspension of the rules, I move final passage of second substitute, House Bill 367, as amended.
Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble. Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Manson. Maine.
Senator Maine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd love to vote for this. I have this practice done, and I fell a year ago down my stairs, and they fixed me with this procedure, and so, yoo-hoo, you'll love it. Thank you.
And that's an aye vote? I guess.
It's a yoo-hoo vote.
Fine.
Senator Okerlund.
More needles.
Your vote. Thank you. Osmond.
Senator Osmond.
Based on the personal references from the colleagues of mine about this bill, I'm going to be scheduling my appointment on Friday, and I'm an aye vote.
Senator Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler.
Yoo-hoo. Aye.
Senator Adams. And President Niederhauser.
Aye. Second substitute, House Bill 367, having received 25 yea votes, 2 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes. Was this amended? And shall be sent to the House for further consideration. Senator Dayton.
Thank you, Mr. President. With apologies for during the headlights moment, I would like to move to uncircle House Bill 192.
Motion to encircle. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you. This bill adds a statement to statewide and local initiative petitions. It says, by signing this petition, you are stating that you have read and understand the law proposed by this petition. I think it's a very good transparency and disclosure measure because there have been a number of interesting stories about people signing petitions and then finding out later that it really wasn't what it was purported to be. I think it's important for people to realize the significance of their signatures, and this will add some understanding to that. So that is the bill, and I'm open for questions.
Questions to the bill? Seeing none, Senator Dayton, back to you for summation.
Thank you. I would waive summation, and as permitted under the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3-reading requirement.
All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you. I would move that, under suspension of the rules, I move final passage of House Bill 192.
Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble. Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. I'm sorry.
It was a no.
Thank you. Dayton.
Aye.
Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. Senator Shiozawa. President Niederhauser.
Aye. House Bill 192, having received 23 yea votes, 5 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 390.
House Bill 390, Unlawful Activities Amendments. Senator Weiler.
Senator Weiler.
Move to circle.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. The bill is circled. Next up is House Bill 102.
House Bill 102, Assessment Area Amendments. Senator Adams.
Senator Adams. House Bill 102.
We're waiting for an amendment, so motion to circle.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. The bill is circled. Senator Weiler.
Motion to uncircle House Bill 390.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. The bill is encircled. Go ahead, Senator Weiler.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 390 was reviewed and unanimously recommended for consideration by the House Investigation Committee and by the House Government Operations Committee. House Bill 390 proposes that language regarding the crime of obstructing justice to be included to address legislative proceedings, and this clarifies what an official legislative proceeding is for an existing criminal provision. House Bill 390 takes base crimes within the state's organized crime statute and allows those to be considered if such crimes are committed within the context of a legislative proceeding. House Bill 390 zeroes in on circumstances where a pattern of these evasive behaviors occurs and includes base crimes such as 1, tampering with evidence, and 2, falsification or alteration of government record if the record is a record described in the Elections Code or the Lobbyist Disclosure and Regulations Act. Again, House Bill 390 focuses on criminalizing a pattern of behavior rather than any one singular act. If an individual commits one of these crimes once, this statute has no application at all. But if he or she commits any of these base crimes listed 3 times or a combination of 3 times, and a prosecutor can prove that they are related to a criminal scheme, it could rise to the level of a second-degree felony. Legislative proceedings include an investigation or an audit conducted by the legislature or a legislative body, or by an independent contractor or staff who is working at the discretion of the legislature. House Bill 390 also addresses circumstances where an individual lies, but not under oath, in the context of an investigation or audit. In those circumstances, those individuals could be charged with a Class A misdemeanor. There's also safe harbor language contained in line 115. And with that explanation, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions about House Bill 390.
Okay, questions to the bill? No No questions? Okay. Senator Weiler, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that we suspend, as permitted by the Constitution, we suspend the 3 reading requirement.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. And under suspension of the rules, I would move that House Bill 390 pass.
Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble. Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. Senator Madsen. President Niederhauser.
Aye. House Bill 390, having received 24 yea votes, 1 nay vote, 4 being absent, passes, shall be signed by the President in open session and sent to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Senator Adams.
No, excuse me.
Oh. All right, next bill up is first substitute House Bill 155.
First substitute House Bill 155, Utah Communication Agency Network and Utah 911 Committee Amendments. Senator Adams.
Senator Adams.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 155 deals with UCAN and the Safety Radio Network. The goal of 155 is to put all of the state's local government public safety communications organizations together under one umbrella, the Utah Communication Authority. What the bill does is merge DTS, Public Safety Radio, with UCAN, Public Safety Radio, under the newly constructed UCA, the Utah Communication Authority. It moves the statewide executive committee from DTS to, again, the Utah Communication Authority, and it moves the statewide 911 committee from DPS to the Utah Communications Authority. Sets a board. The board, or the committee, has representatives from DPS, UDOT, Division of Natural Resources, Corrections, Health, Natural Guard, and the Treasurer, rep from the tribes and local users. The bills have been endorsed by the Utah League of City and Towns and the Utah Association of Counties. And I need, if I could, Mr. President, there's an amendment in my name. I forgot to move Amendment 2, which gives clarification to, as the authority moves out, as to what control they have as far as benefits. And it's Amendment 2, and what things they need to consider as they evaluate the benefits. And I'll just read a portion of it. It says, evaluates the benefits of cost, existing facilities, and equipment and services of the public-private providers, and that's Amendment 2 in my name.
Okay. So to the motion to amend, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. The bill is amended. Now to the bill. Any further presentation, Senator?
No, thank you. I think I did that.
Okay. Discussion to the bill. Senator Valentine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. During several meetings that I've participated in, county sheriffs have exhibited a number of real strong concerns about the bill in some of its early iterations. If the sponsor would yield, I'd like to ask a question about that.
Senator Adams?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Senator Valentine.
Thank you, Senator. Tell us now, do the sheriffs generally feel like the bill will be workable? Because at one point in time, they testified in a couple of different places that they were very concerned that it was not workable.
I haven't spoken to sheriffs. I wouldn't want to speak for them. Again, my understanding is that the Utah Association of Counties are supportive of it. Sheriffs usually have input and influence on that association, and I've not heard anything to the contrary, but again, I wouldn't want to speak for them.
Last Friday, we specifically heard from the sheriff from Sevier County, who was speaking for a lot of sheriffs, that they were very concerned about what this bill was doing to them and to their budgets, and that it was going to require a significant investment in a technology that in the rural area was not going to be very effective. Can you give us a comment about whether or not that is still within the bill after this amendment?
It's my understanding the bill does not remove local control from any county or city for their dispatch responsibilities. It does not reduce any revenue received by any PSAP. It does not mandate any technology for any dispatch center. The 911 experts will make all recommendations and everything voluntary. It does not force any rural community to switch public radio systems. So I think those items have been addressed.
Thank you. The last question deals with the fiscal note. The fiscal note was a fairly convoluted fiscal note as I tried to understand it. It seems like it took $3 million from the 911 system and put it into the UCAN system. Is that what it's doing? Is that what the effect of the fiscal note is?
Senator Adams?
Yes, that's exactly what it's doing, and I believe there's an appropriation in this year's budget to try to replace those funds going to the poison control.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Senator Harper?
Yes. What this bill does is it goes and restructures a lot of funding and creates the Utah Communications Area Network, a new entity by which some of the funds that are collected off of the I think it's a 64-cent monthly fee on a phone bill. Part of that funding, the 7 cent we discussed yesterday, going to the Poison Control Center, it takes that funding plus a little bit more and puts the vast majority of it into a grant fund where the state and local entities can go through and request money from for the infrastructure. As we discussed before, there is a need of about $140 million to improve the 911 center throughout the state, or system throughout the state. Right now we're operating off 150 megahertz, 800 megahertz, and several other systems. So the intent is to go through and create a pool of money by which entities and different groups can come in and say, we need to go through and connect into a wilderness area or national park or something like that where 150 megahertz radios operate, but not the 800, which most of the statewide different emergency responders operate off of. So I think that this has some real positives to do that. There's some cost with it. It does some internal transfers. UCAN and DTS have agreed to go through and transfer some responsibilities and some employees, some equipment. This bill goes through and addresses those issues so that transfer can be done. I think all in all, this bill addresses the needs of the state, but it does go through and remove the total funding for the Poison Control Center. That funding is identified as $2.1 million in Senate Bill 2. And I think that a lot of the issues that have been raised as to whether this goes through and harms or weakens a rural entity, I don't believe that that is the case in this latest version of the bill. I think it just mainly takes the money and puts it into a grant pool that people can request from.
Senator Van Tassel?
Point of clarification, if I might ask the sponsor.
Okay, go
Question
ahead.
for the sponsor.
Yes, I'd yield.
Thank you. Under the bill as it's now drafted, if there is existing infrastructure that the system can move on to, will it be used, or are we locking it into one system?
I think the amendment at least partially addressed that. And the amendment basically states that they have to evaluate the benefits, cost, existing facilities, and equipment and services of public and private providers. So that was part of the amendment. I don't know that it fully covers that, but at least the direction is that they should evaluate that.
So it should be evaluated, and based on the merits, whichever is the newest, best equipment should win out then, is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm probably not qualified to say which one will win out, but surely will be evaluated, yes.
Okay. I guess the reason that I'm bringing the question up is that we have many of the rural cooperatives for a long time it was under many of the systems when equipment was being replaced in Salt Lake City, it'd move out to the rural areas and be put in as new equipment whilst the population areas got the larger. Since the advent of the cell phones and the act, many of the rural cooperatives have made great advances and are actually further ahead than many of the areas in the metropolitan areas. So I would encourage that those systems be used and that the sheriffs continue to have the input to make the best system that works. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Okerlund.
One other question to the sponsor, if I may.
Senator Adams.
I'll yield.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just looking at the amendment I think is an improvement. There was some question about existing facilities, those companies, private companies and others who have existing facilities that may be used in this kind of statewide, very important process. And one of the equipments and services that are available out there still in a large part of the state is translators, TV translators that are used to translate television signals to free television signals to a big part of the state. And I think that the amendment there kind of anticipates that we're talking about working with and using some of those existing facilities and equipment. I think it's important. And do you know if this bill anticipates being able to use those kinds of facilities and working with those people who maintain those kinds of facilities?
Yeah, the deployment of this I think it's on line 843, indicates that it will be done in a manner that promotes high quality and cost-effective service. Hopefully that would include any of those existing services that may be there, and then evaluate the benefits, and again, the amendment added cost, existing facilities, equipment, and services of public-private providers, and maintain the current VHF high band network. So I believe that would be the case, but again, be happy to. Mr. President, I think the intention is that I move this to third to allow, again, more purview and again, more discussion if we'd like to on third. I'd be happy to make sure that I've answered those questions accurately.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? So, Senators, this is an example of there's been some significant questions. We've made some amendments. This would be a good one to move over to third so that the sheriffs, anybody else that has some interest in it could look at it and we can address it on third. So we want to make sure we're vetting these bills appropriately. Senator Adams, back to you for summation.
Thank you. With that, I'd waive summation as I've indicated, make a motion that first substitute House Bill 155 be read for a third time.
Roll call vote.
Senator Adams.
Aye.
Bramble. Aye. Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. DeBackus. Manson. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
Aye. First substitute House Bill 155, having received 29 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 0 being absent, passes. First substitute House Bill 155, having received 29 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 0 being absent, shall be read for a third time. Okay. Next up, we have second substitute House Bill 286.
Second substitute House Bill 286, Child Sexual Abuse Prevention. Senator Adams.
Senator Adams.
Thank you. Second substitute House Bill 286 allows schools, public schools, to be able to give instruction on child abuse. That instruction is basically restricted unless the parent or guardian of the student is notified in advance of the instruction content of the content of the instruction, and the parent or guardian have the right to have the student excused from instruction, and gives an opportunity to review the instructional materials before the instruction occurs. And they're allowed to be present when the instruction is delivered. And so the bill's been worked on extensively through the House. This is a significant issue. This is an issue that was heard in committee, and many former Miss Utah, and of course you're well aware of Ed Smart and Elizabeth Smart. This is an issue they've been very involved with, and it's a significant thing, I think, in our state that needs to be dealt with.
Okay. Discussion to the bill. Senator Dayton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some concerns about the issue here, talking about sexual abuse in elementary and secondary schools. It references age-appropriate material, but it doesn't determine who decides what is age-appropriate. I would like to move amendment number 6 under my name.
Okay.
Which I think is being passed out, that puts in code that an elementary student may not be given the instruction unless the parent has given written prior consent and is allowed to be present when the instruction is given. And I would like to speak to that amendment.
All right. Go ahead and speak to the
Thank
amendment.
you. I know all of us abhor any kind of abuse to a child. I just want to make sure that if we're going to put this kind of thing, this kind of language and code, that we are protecting those children instead of creating in those, especially the young children, a sense of distrust with all adults. I'm comfortable with the idea that the safer place for children to receive training or being taught about sexual abuse is the school instead of the home. Last week, the Deseret News ran an article referencing 20 high-profile cases about sexual abuse in the schools, and I'm not even sure that this should be in the schools, and this is the kind of thing that should be taught. But if we're going to put it in the schools, I think we need to recognize that the parents need to be the primary guardian and protector of the child and their innocence in the instruction that they're getting, and that's why I present this amendment.
All right. Discussion to the motion to amend. Senator Adams.
Again, this has been a lengthy discussion, I believe, both in the House and in committee. I think there's concerns about not necessarily, the bill, again, requires notification in advance of the instruction and content. The parent or guardian have the right to have the student excused from the instruction or be present. The bill addresses all of the concerns, I think, that have been talked about. The written consent has been problematic simply because there's thought that perhaps a parent who has a problem would, of course, not give that written consent, and that becomes problematic to an abuser of a child. a child that's being abused.
Okay. Senator Jones.
Thank you,
To the
Mr.
amendment.
President. Yes, a question for the sponsor of the amendment.
Okay. Senator Dayton. Go ahead, Senator Jones.
Yes, the question is, would this mean then that parents would have to opt in order to receive their children to receive the instruction?
It does.
Okay. This was attempted in our committee. This was heard in the committee that I sit on. It was defeated soundly. We had a number of testimonies in that committee. And what happens if it is required to be opt-in is there are a number of parents who are the perpetrators. You think they're going to actually opt in to have their children taught these age-appropriate materials when in fact they may be the perpetrators themselves? There are a number of reasons not to opt in. We know that opt-ins don't work very well. If parents choose to have their children not be part of this age-appropriate materials, there are safeguards in the bill. They may opt out. But it's important for children to have this kind of background because one never knows. And it usually, in fact, most commonly, is someone in their own family that are the perpetrators. They need to know what their appropriate boundaries are. So by having them opt in, it completely guts the bill. It defeats the purpose of the bill. We heard this again, attempted in our committee. It was defeated soundly. I would urge all of you to resist this motion to amend.
Senator Thatcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would oppose this amendment. I understand and appreciate the intent of the amendment, but my concern is this. A parent that is sufficiently involved and sufficiently engaged that they would choose to opt in is probably sufficiently involved and engaged that their children have significantly lower risk factors. The parents that are not engaged, the parents that are not paying attention, these are the ones who have children in the greatest risk, that are most in harm's way. I appreciate the work that the sponsor has done to prevent. It specifically says in Section 5 on line 62, a student may not be given the instruction unless the parent is notified in advance of the instruction and the content. We had the content passed out. It's sitting on your desk. It certainly, to me, does not look inappropriate. It requires that they have the right to excuse a student if they decide that that is the appropriate thing for their kid. They're given an opportunity to review the material. They're allowed to be present. In my opinion, I think all of the appropriate safety protocols are already in place, and to change this to an opt-in would leave the most critical and most vulnerable children at risk. Thank you.
Senator Osmond, to the motion to amend.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I'm really struggling with this amendment myself. I am a huge advocate of parental rights and believe that we do need to empower our parents to know what's happening, to be involved in the educational process of their children. In our state constitution and in our statute, we talk about over and over again the importance that the parent has the fundamental liberty interest in their child's education. I get that. I too believe that this bill has sufficient protections. And here's where I'm struggling. It's from personal experience. You know, I am in a situation where, as a child, I too was the recipient of abuse by a non-family member. I've never stated that publicly. It was a very devastating experience to me personally. My parents loved me, and they cared about me and my brothers and sisters a great deal. However, they were inundated with pressure, financial pressure and stress in the home. They didn't have the time to engage with me and provide me instruction. And frankly, they would have missed these parental notices anyway. We didn't even talk about these things as a family, and we were considered a great family from a unity perspective and our membership in our religious faith and things like that, but we didn't talk about these issues. I am very concerned that it's only worse now. Our society is inundated with pornography and other influences that are creating more environment and opportunity for child abuse. We've heard statistics that 1 in every 3 children are going to be abused or have been abused. That is an unacceptable statistic to me. For me, this is about child safety. This isn't about a discussion of sex or sexuality. This is about helping a child recognize that it's okay to say no and to stop an adult in any setting, whether it's in the home, whether it's in the school, or in any other environment where they feel unsafe, giving them the tools to understand you can push back against an adult, you can say that it's wrong, and you can protect the child by giving them a little information. I love the protections of the bill that are in there now. As a parent, I will be notified. I'll have a chance to review the material. But there are multiple parents in our society now who are so stressed out in working multiple jobs, engaged in so many things, they will not engage on this issue, and that child will be vulnerable. And from my perspective, Mr. President, that is an unacceptable risk. We need to take a stand on this and teach our kids how to protect themselves. And I resist this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Urquhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I speak against the amendment. Let's walk through a couple things here. First off, in Utah, we love our children, and we want to do what we can to keep them safe. The best way to keep people safe from sexual abuse is to provide them with knowledge. This is something where absolutely knowledge is power. When they know that there are certain things are inappropriate and the steps they should take, then those children are so much safer, because often in these situations, the only person on earth who can protect the child is the child. And so the child needs some greater information to do that. And so this is a wonderful way to get the information to the children in a good way. And normally we do that in education. Here's information. But in this bill already, we're taking the extraordinary step of saying, however, before we give the child this information, we are going to inform the parents. We're going to give them an opportunity to look at the information and an opportunity to opt out of that. So this will protect our children as the bill exists, and it will give parents an opportunity to look at the curriculum and to opt out if they want. And so I think that the bill is good. I speak against the amendment.
Senator Madsen.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I wasn't going to comment on this. I said my piece in committee, and was pointed out, as was pointed out, it was defeated. But I'm especially bothered by the rhetoric surrounding the opposition to this amendment, and it's based on the premise that at best families are inadequate. At worst, they are the majority of the abusers, as has been stated here on the floor, and I don't buy that for a minute. In fact, we heard testimony in committee that it is much more likely that the abuse takes place at the hands of a teacher in school than from a biological parent at home. So I think that the opposition is misdirected, and it's, again, based on this false premise that families are inadequate or families are evil, and therefore government must. And I just don't buy into that premise. And that's the underpinnings of virtually every statement in opposition to this amendment. I think families do come first, not just rhetorically, but in fact, families come first. They are the basic unit of our society, and we need to empower them to the very best of our ability, not keep them in the dark, not create a default where families are left out of the loop. And I'm afraid that with all the protections, so-called protections that have been read into this bill, it's still inadequate. You know, send the curriculum home to the parents and let the parents present it. because they're much less likely to be abused by a parent at home than they are to be abused by a teacher in the school, based on the testimony we heard in committee. I think there are other ways of solving this, and I really don't like this constant diminishing and demeaning of the family and parents as inadequate. I support this amendment.
Senator Reid.
I wasn't going to speak on this either, and in fact, in committee, I voted against a similar amendment that was proposed. But I'm a little concerned about the discussion as well. The assumption that the state automatically has to protect children from their parents is disturbing to me. I have a relationship that's very close to me that this individual was abused as a child. And I asked her, having gone through your experience, would you want to be put in a position to give permission rather than opt out? In other words, opt in versus opt out. And she said, no one knows my children better than I do. No one knows my children, what they're prepared to handle, what kind of discussion is helpful to them or what could be hurtful to them. I think in every case a parent should give permission. And so I decided that that's going to be my guiding light in this discussion. I think reasonable people, I was moved by Senator Osmond's both his experience and his remarks. So I think reasonable people can differ on this, but I think the starting point is, are we respecting the parent? Are we mindful that this government is here to serve us? We're not here to serve the government. The government, particularly when we're talking about the education of our children, should be agents of the family, of the parents, not the parents agents of the government. And so with respect, I think that we should support this amendment. I don't think it undermines the bill at all. I'm very supportive of the bill. It just reinforces that the dominion of the government yields to the sanctity of the family and the priorities and prerogative of the parents. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Thatcher.
Please forgive me for rising again, Mr. President, but after Senator Osmond's testimony, for the first time ever in public, when I was in 7th grade and I was walking to school, I was late. I was passing through the field that all the kids took, and I was attacked by a man I did not know. Mercifully, because I had been so brutally bullied in elementary school, I decided to learn Kung Fu over the summer. And with those classes, one of the first lessons that we learned was that no one has the right to hurt you, that you have a right to defend yourself. And when that man laid hands on me, I fought like a demon. I punched, I kicked, I scratched, I bit, and I screamed my little 70-pound head off. I was able to make enough noise that someone nearby mercifully and gratefully heard and came to my rescue, but not before the man had ripped the zippers off of my pants. This is happening. And statistically, Aaron and I are not the only members of this body that had that experience as children. This is happening. And if we do not act, it will continue to happen. And I can tell you right now, without that lesson from my Sifu telling me that it is not okay for someone to hurt you, I would have been a victim of this as well. It is why all of my children, my nieces, my nephews, will learn Kung Fu from the time they can walk. This is too important for us to make arguments about propriety. These children need to know that it is okay to defend themselves. Yes, parents have rights, and those rights are very clearly protected under the current language, but we need to protect the children as well.
Senator Van Tassel.
Thank you. It's been an interesting debate and discussion on this amendment. I guess the question I have, and I don't know who's going to answer it, but the question is, so if you opt out, are you immediately guilty? Are you bringing yourself, if you opt out with your child, are you saying that you're guilty? I think that's putting parents in a tough position. If they choose not to, are they going to be assumed guilty? Thank you.
Okay. Senator Valentine.
I also was not going to speak on this. This is a very, very emotional bill for all of us, and we're all torn. We hear the statements of two of our colleagues, and it just hits our heartstrings. But at the same token, we have to make a broad policy decision. Do we say that parents should have responsibilities? Or do we say that the school has to take over because we as a society do not take care of our own responsibilities? I don't believe that. I believe that parents are still responsible. And I've wrestled and wrestled and wrestled with the idea of whether or not we should have an opt-in or an opt-out, where the parents should have no responsibility and the schools should just take over. And I still have faith and trust in parents, especially in parents in this state, that they will do the right thing. The parents will make decisions that will protect their kids. They want to protect their kids. We all want to. We want to protect our grandkids. The amendment really goes to the core issue of this bill, because I think all of us agree with the basic premises of the bill. It's just on this fulcrum point of, should the parents have the responsibility or should the school have the responsibility? And I come down on the side of the parents. I support the motion to amend.
Okay, seeing no more, Senator Weiler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that this is an emotional issue, and there's good arguments on both sides. I just want to point out to my colleagues before we vote that line 59 of the bill says that it won't take effect until the 2016 school year. And if you read further down in the bill, there's going to be reports to the interim education committee. So I believe that there's adequate protections that are already built in. And I just want to share my childhood experience, since everybody else is. When I was a young boy, I went to a scout camp with my Mormon Boy Scout troop, and I was at the shooting range working on my rifle and shotgun merit badge, and I helped the scout officer clean up afterwards at closing time. And he asked me if he could take my picture, and I said, sure. And then he asked me if I'd take my shirt off, and I said, sure. And he took a picture of me with his arms around from standing behind me, with his hands in front of my stomach. It was a self-timed camera. And I just trotted back off to my little scout troop and never thought about it for about 5 years. And I woke up one day and I'm like, what in the heck was that about? And fortunately, that never went further. But, you know, my parents never talked to me about that stuff. They sent me off with my church scout group, and clearly a man who was working up his courage to molest a young boy was practicing on me, and I'm grateful it didn't go any further. My parents wouldn't have opted me into this because they probably wouldn't have read a note. I can relate to everything Senator Osmond said. But I do think that the adequate protections are built into this bill to allow a parent who's concerned to take their children out, and for that reason I'll vote no on the amendment. Thank you.
Senator Dayton, back to you for summation on the motion to amend.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate the discussion on this bill. I remind the body again that this is not a bill about whether or not you like or negate the significance or the trauma of child abuse. These are horrible stories. This is a horrible thing. This amendment is not saying that if you vote for the amendment, you endorse child abuse. This amendment is saying that you empower the parents with more information. I think everyone that has spoken against the amendment has actually strengthened my argument for it, because so many times there has been stated on the floor, speaking against the amendment, that there's enough information for parents and that parents can find out. Well, if that's what they're thinking, and they think that parents need to know, then why is it harmful to just give the parents one more piece of information about their child, their child's curriculum, and the information that they're getting at school? This amendment empowers the parents to work more closely with the schools if we decide that this kind of thing needs to be in the schools. I remind the body again about the article in the Deseret News last week with the numbers of stories that it delineated that came out about 20 cases recently of sex abuse occurring in the schools or with people in trusted positions. So with appreciation for the discussion, I would urge you to vote for this amendment.
Okay, I'm going to place the amendment for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. I rule the motion passes. Okay. So those who voted yea for the motion, please stand. Are you standing, Senator Heekins? Okay. Senator Harper, you're standing? How many? Okay. Those who are opposed to the amendment, please stand. So the motion fails. To the bill. Discussion? Senator Stevenson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that everyone involved with this bill, either those who were for that amendment or opposed to it, all have the same interest, and that is our children's safety. We have until 2016 to implement this, and I hope that by that time we have a better handle on what this training is going to look like. I asked for some information on the training that is currently going on, and I was impressed with the sensitivity with which those who showed me that information had, and it looked like children would be instructed properly for their age group. But we have to acknowledge that depending on how the training is done and who the teacher is that's doing it, it can be, there's a wide range of ways in which these things can be described. And there's also a wide range, even in a certain age group, of children's readiness for discussions and their suspicion that might be elicited unnecessarily for everyone in their lives. And so I'm hoping that we maybe by this time next year are willing to move into the 21st century and have something prepared that would be in a video form, that we don't have to worry about the way it's going to be presented, but instead we know that we've all agreed exactly what that video will look like for that age, and we don't make too big of a deal out of it that for some children could make them paranoid, and for other children might not be sufficient. So I think that we have a lot of work to do, because I'm not willing to leave this up to the vagaries of whomever is doing the instruction and their particular bias, and also the wide range of sensitivities of children that may be affected adversely. We all want our children to be safe and protected and to be assertive in defending themselves. But at the same time, I don't think any of us want to place in a child's mind an irrational fear of life and living. And therefore, I'm hopeful that if this bill passes, we will be serious about ensuring that the kind of instruction that is given is better than what I'm currently anticipating.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Senator, back to you. And with this debate, we probably ought to move it to third.
Yeah, I planned on that. I talked to some people and already committed to do that, so that's my plan. Good discussion. I believe we have had a lot of great information. I think most of us agree with most all of it. Again, it's been indicated that this bill doesn't take effect until 2016-17 school year. The bill requires a parent or guardian be given notification in advance of the instruction and content of the instruction, and that they have the student has the right to be excused from the instruction. The form of notification, I think, needs to be, can be, and should be additionally refined. In the process, the State Board of Education needs to report to the Education Interim Committee. I believe there's also opportunity for rules to be set in place, administrative rules to be able to guide and direct part of this. And that's my hope that would happen over this next year and a half or so as we move through and try to refine this process. So with that, I'd make a motion that second substitute House Bill 286 be read for a third time.
The motion is, shall second substitute House Bill 286 be read for a third time? Roll call vote.
Senator Adams.
Aye.
Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
DeBackus. Davis.
Aye.
Dayton. No. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson.
No on two.
Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. And President Niederhauser.
Second substitute House Bill 286, having received 20 yea votes, 8 nay votes, one absent, will be read for a third time. First substitute House Bill 168.
First substitute House Bill 168, School and Institutional Trust Lands and Funds Management Provisions. Senator Bramble.
Senator Okerlund.
Motion to circle.
Motion is to circle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Bill is circled. First substitute House Bill 356.
First substitute House Bill 356, New Convention Facility Development Incentive Provisions. Senator Adams.
Senator Adams.
Thank you. Motion to circle.
Motion to circle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The bill is circled. House Bill 72.
House Bill 72, Higher Education Grievance Procedure Amendments. Senator Urquhart.
Senator Urquhart.
Motion to circle.
Well, we're having a bunch of them. The motion is to circle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The bill is circled. House Bill 426.
House Bill 426, Retirement Participation Modifications. Senator Adams.
Senator Adams.
Motion to circle.
Motion to circle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The bill is circled. Let's see if we can find a bill here. Second substitute House Bill 141.
Second substitute House Bill 141, Health Reform Amendments. Senator Christensen.
Senator Christensen.
141. Excuse me. Yes, let's go with it. Excuse the long explanation on this, but this is a complex bill. This amends the period of time when an employee of a state contractor must be enrolled in the health insurance to conform to federal law. This bill came out of our Health Reform Task Force. It amends the Health Data Authority. It amends the navigator's licenses, creates two different kinds of licenses. It adds an exemption to that licensing requirement for Indian health centers. It actually gets rid of the HIP pool. It permits to renew an insurance plan as long as the federal government establishes that policy. Also establishes an option for calculating the cost to the state if the state mandates additional benefits under the ACA, creates individual small employer risk, and provides a form for the federal small employers premium tax credit for small employers. Also makes technical changes.
Thank you, Senator Christensen. Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, back to you, Senator.
I move that second substitute HB 141 pass.
Do you want to suspend the rules? Would you like to suspend the three reading requirement?
Are we doing the same one? I move that we suspend three.
If there's no controversy and there was no debate, then we may as well just move it all the way across.
Thank you. I move that we suspend the three reading requirement.
The motion is to suspend the 3-day requirement. The motion is as provided by the Constitution to suspend the 3 reading requirement. All in favor of the motion to suspend, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Senator Christensen.
Then, under suspension of the rules, I move that second substitute House Bill 141 pass.
Under suspension of the rules, the motion is that second substitute House Bill 141 pass. Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Tabakis. Davis. 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 Should Senator Davis? Your vote. Thank you. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Thank you. Knudsen. Manson. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Thank you. Urquhart.
Aye.
Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiner. And President Niederhauser.
Second substitute House Bill 141, having received 25 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 4 being absent, will be signed by the President in open session and referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Joint Resolution 17.
HJR 17, Joint Resolution on jail.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me go back and Senator Adams.
Thank you. I could wait either one. Motion to encircle House Bill 429.
Motion is to encircle.
House Bill 426.
Motion is to encircle House Bill 426. Senator Valentine.
To the motion to encircle, I'll probably start standing up on these motions to encircle if we don't say the short titles. We have to see the short titles when we're making a motion to encircle.
Yes.
Okay, Senator Adams.
Thank you one more time. Motion to encircle House Bill 426, retirement participation modifications.
I'll place that motion to encircle House Bill 426, retirement participation modifications. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill is encircled. Senator Adams.
House Bill 426 deals with retirement benefits for Valley Mental Health. They have a very competitive process to be able to hire people. They found that the URS is too expensive, so they want to opt out. And this bill gives them the ability to do that. Anyone who's in the current system will stay in URS. Those new employees will have the ability to have a 401k, and that's what the bill does.
Thank you, Senator. Questions for the sponsor? Senator Madsen, or are you just up on the next bill? Seeing none, Senator, back to you.
Thank you. Again, with no discussion, I would make a motion that we, I don't know if we need to suspend the constitutional third reading requirement or just under suspension of the rules, move across to second, third reading.
We need to suspend under the Constitution, we need to suspend the 3 reading requirement.
Why don't we suspend the constitutional third reading requirement?
I'll place that motion. All in favor of suspending the 3 reading requirement as permitted by the Constitution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Senator Adams.
Thank you. Then under suspension of the rules, I would move that House Bill 426 pass.
The motion is, shall House Bill 426 pass? Yes, we did suspend the rules. The motion was unanimous to suspend the rules. We're now placing the motion that...
under suspension of the rules.
Under suspension of the rules, that House Bill 426 pass. Roll call vote.
Senator Adams.
Aye.
Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. Aye. DeBackus. Aye. Davis. Aye. Dayton. Harper. Aye. Henderson. Hilliard. Aye. Hinkins. Aye. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Aye. Madsen. Aye. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
House Bill 426, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, will be signed by the President in open session and referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Senator Urquhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I move to uncircle HB 72 Higher Education Grievance Procedure Amendments.
Motion is to encircle House Bill 72, Higher Education Grievance Procedure Amendments. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The bill is uncircled. Senator Urquhart.
Thank you. I circled earlier, making sure that an amendment was ready. It is ready. That's Amendment 3 under my name. I would move that, and I can speak to that if you would like.
Proceed.
Okay. The bill as a whole, it allows more due process when an employee is being terminated in a higher education setting. And the amendment clarifies that these are for non-faculty positions.
That is the motion to amend?
Correct.
Discussion on the motion to amend? See none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The bill is amended. Senator Urquhart.
Okay. In explaining the amendment, I explained the bill, so I'm open to questions.
Any questions now on the bill as amended? Senator Dayton? Senator Urquhart, back to you for summation.
Okay, so what this does in termination proceedings in higher education, as it currently sits, non-faculty positions, if they are demoted or terminated, this gives fuller rights to a hearing. And with that, as permitted by the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3 reading requirement.
Those in favor of suspending the 3 reading requirements as permitted by the Constitution say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Senator Urquhart.
Under suspension of the rules, I move final passage on HB 72.
The motion is, should HB 72 under suspension of the rules pass? Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Henderson, was that an aye? Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen, Maine, Okerlund, Osmond, Reed, Robles, Shiozawa, Howard Stevenson, Jerry Stevenson, Thatcher, Urquhart, Valentine, Van Tassel, Vickers, Weiler, Preston Niederhauser.
House Bill 72, having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, was amended in the Senate and will be referred to the House for further consideration. It passes and will be referred to the House. Okay, HJR 17.
HJR 17, Joint Resolution on Jail Facilities. Senator Okerlund.
Senator Okerlund.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Each year, the Department of Corrections increases by approximately 144 beds. This will increase available beds in this joint resolution will allow us to increase available beds in 8 jails by 285 beds. Will give flexibility to the Department of Corrections to increase local housing options. The incarceration rate is $46.85 a day, which is considerably less than state facilities, and this does not require any additional building of beds since these counties have these existing beds ready to contract. These 8 counties are Tooele, Weber, Davis, Iron, Kane, Emery, Grand, and Garfield. The resolution specifies the number of beds that we would be contracting for and the cost of that contracting. This just allows, this joint resolution just allows us to support this contracting of beds for state inmates using beds that we do have available now in county jails. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Senator. Questions for Senator Okerlund? Seeing none, Senator, back to you.
Thank you. I'll waive and move that we, under the Constitution, as permitted by the Constitution, I move that we waive the 3 reading requirement.
We don't need to suspend under the Constitution. We just need to suspend the 3 reading requirement. Motion to suspend this is a resolution. Motion to suspend the rules on the 3 reading requirement. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Senator Okerlund.
And with that, I move that under suspension of the rules, HJR 17 pass.
Motion is, shall House Joint Resolution 17 pass? Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund.
Aye.
Osmond. Reed. Robles. Chiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Dayton. Thank you. Van Tassel.
You're the sponsor.
Vickers.
Okay.
Weiler. Hilliard.
Good. Okay.
And President Niederhauser.
You can make this honor for 10 minutes. Give the ladies a chance to get to the restroom, take a little break.
Okay. HJR 17, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes, will be signed by the President in open session and referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. We have one motion, Senator Urquhart, and then I believe we're going to saunter for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Let me call the bill. 7th Substitute House Bill 105.
7th Substitute House Bill 105, Plant Extract Amendments. Senator Urquhart.
Senator Urquhart.
Okay, thank you. This is Gage Frower's bill that deals with hemp extract that helps kids with seizure disorders. And Senator Valentine is working on a substitute, and also a lot of the families and kids would like to be here, but it's, a bit of an ordeal to get the kids here. And so with that, I would like to move this to time certain for 4 p.m. today. And also, I want to let the Senate know the kids, they can be noisy. So just be ready for that. There are some issues in the House where House members didn't know what the noise was coming from the gallery. And so that's my motion, is to have this at 4 to give the families and kids an opportunity to be here and to put you on notice that it might be a little noisy.
On the motion to place 7 substitute House Bill 105 on time certain at 4 p.m., Senator Valentine.
Thank you. I support the motion to set this at a time certain. Senator Urquhart has correctly said that there is a new substitute that is not yet on your computers that should be available well before that time. It will be substitute number 9. It is an agreed substitute between myself, the advocates, Senator Urquhart, and I think that you will like some of the things that we're doing with the substitute, and so I fully encourage us to support the motion to set it for a time certain.
On the motion to set the bill for time certain at 4 p.m., all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll set 7 substitute House Bill 105 for time certain at 4 p.m. today. Senator Davis for personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. With us today, let's go back a couple of weeks ago. We passed a resolution honoring 2 of the grand ladies of dance in the state of Utah. The Ryrie Woodbury Dance Company is actually who we saluted, but today on the floor we have with us the founders of Ryrie Woodbury, Joanne and Shirley. If you would just stand, please. Please welcome them and the grand ladies of dance and the great job they've done in the state of Utah. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now, Senator Okerlund for a motion to saunter until 11:05.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Before I do that, personal privilege.
Personal privilege granted.
I'd just like to recognize my 2 daughters and my mother who are here with us today in the gallery, just joining us for a day while we're here. Please help me welcome them. And with that, I move that we saunter for 10 minutes.
Motion is to saunter 10 minutes, would put us at about 11:05. All in favor say aye. We're sauntering until 11:05. can just go right to it. After we have communications, we'll go to the concurrence calendar. We're going to go ahead and call the Senate back to order. I believe we have communications.
Mr. President, the House passed as amended Senate Bill 87, Contractor and Employee Amendments by Senator Maine. As the House substituted and passed second sub Senate Bill 129, Insurance Amendments by Senator Bramble. As amended second sub Senate Bill 179, Procurement Revisions by Senator Jenkins. As amended first sub Senate Bill 184, Local Government Inspection Amendments by Senator Adams. As amended Senate Bill 187, Highway Rights of Way Amendments by Senator Adams. These bills are transmitted for consideration.
We're making certain that we have a quorum here. There we go. These bills will be placed on the concurrence calendar. Actually, do we do that by motion? Yeah. Senator Valentine, would you make a motion to place these on concurrence?
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I move that these bills be placed on the concurrence calendar.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion to place these bills on concurrence, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The bills will be on concurrence. Do we have further communication? Then let's move to the concurrence calendar. Let's see here. On concurrence, Senate Bill 87.
Senate Bill 87, Contractor and Employee Amendments. Senator Maine.
Senator Maine?
Yes.
This is, we're on concurrence. This is your bill, Senate Bill 87, Contractor and Employee Amendments. Apparently it was amended in the House.
Okay.
This is
should I?
Motion to concur or?
Motion to concur.
What, do you know what they did?
Yet, no. But I want it to pass.
attempt to receive.
No. I accept the concurrence
Okay.
amendment.
Senator, why don't we circle it and then
Why don't we do that?
Circle it on concurrence, then we'll come back to you and you can tell us what.
I appreciate that.
What the
I'll
House
call
did.
the House sponsor. I just haven't heard that it was yay or nay, so I'll give them a call. Thanks.
Okay, the motion is to circle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the bill is circled. Second substitute, Senate Bill 129.
A second substitute, Senate Bill 129, insurance amendments. Senator Bramble.
Senator Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I move that we concur with the House amendments. As I've reviewed those House amendments, they look like they're technical in nature. It does not look like there's been any substantive change.
Those were agreed on by all of the stakeholders with the approval of both the Senate and House sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I move to concur.
Motion to concur. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. This bill has been read 3 times. The question is, shall the bill pass? Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Thank you. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
Second substitute, Senate Bill 129, having received 23 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 6 being absent, will be referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Let's go to Senator Christensen.
May I have a personal privilege, please, Mr. President Pro Tem?
Granted.
Thank you. Senators, I'd like to introduce a constituent of mine from up in Ogden Canyon. Mike, you stand up. This is Mike Bachman. He has graciously agreed to come and sit by me for a few minutes here on the floor today. And I want to take a moment to apologize to Mike and to the body for some comments that I made yesterday regarding an eminent domain bill. I listened to only one side of the argument. I came in here and I embellished that argument, and in my efforts to persuade you to agree with me, I spoke some less than accurate and truthful statements. Some of them bordered on lies. I beg to apologize to the body and to Mike for what I did. I don't know if my comments swayed anyone's vote on it. We passed it narrowly out of here. It's now over in the House. But this goes exactly contrary to what I pride myself in doing here, and that's voting my conscience and doing the right thing. That being said, I don't know that I still disagree with the bill, which way I would vote on it again. It's over in the House now. But if it does pass the House, I want to promise Mike that I will do my very best to mitigate the bill's impact on his property and on my constituents' property up there. And I hope that the body will accept my apology on my misstatements. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and welcome, sir. Okay, on concurrence. Senator Maine, are you ready?
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem.
Let's move to encircle.
I've moved to encircle SB 87 as amended.
Motion is to encircle Senate Bill 87, contractor employee amendments. Senator Maine.
I appreciate your patience with this.
Let's get it encircled. Let's call the question on the motion to encircle. All in favor of encircling Senate Bill 87, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The bill is encircled. Now, Senator Maine.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I concur.
Can you tell us what they did?
That we've changed. We changed from hourly to employee. And employee.
Thank you. The motion is to concur. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. This bill has been read 3 times. The question is, shall the bill pass? Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Hilliard. Senator Henderson. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen.
When you pass concurrence.
Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
Senate Bill 87, Contract Employee Amendments, has received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, will be referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Second substitute, Senate Bill 179.
Second substitute, Senate Bill 179, procurement revisions. Senator Jenkins.
Senator Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. So, what happened is the House amended this bill. This is a procurement bill. And they put in a little amendment in there that says the cost of a procurement item does not, they don't have to comply if the cost of a procurement item does not exceed $100 and the closest physical location of the contractor providing the procurement item under the state cooperative contracting or contracted awarded by the chief procurement officer is more than 60 miles away from the procurement unit location where the procurement item is needed. Well, we already make provisions in the law for somebody to do this. All they have to say is there's a little bit of an emergency and I have to go get this. So the result of this law is, or this change is now, we have 2 million items under $100 on contract with the state. Well, these all come into question now. That's the first thing. The second thing is by passing this, now the state is found in breach of their contracts because we've made contracts on those 2 million items and we just allowed somebody the way to go around it. The third thing is I just got a call from the Attorney General's office and they said, you can't do that. What they just did. It's like, okay, we'll fix it. So my motion is to ask the House to recede from their amendment.
So the motion is to not concur and ask the House to recede from their amendment. All in favor of the motion to not concur, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
We'll go to a conference committee.
We'll ask the House to recede. Thank you. First substitute, Senate Bill 184.
First substitute, Senate Bill 184, local government inspection amendments. Senator Adams.
Looks like Senator Adams is off the floor. Senator Valentine?
Motion to circle.
Motion is to circle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The bill is circled. Senate Bill 187.
Senate Bill 187, highway rights-of-way amendments. Senator Adams.
Senator Adams.
Thank you. I'm trying to find the amendment on the computer. I don't know that if anybody can look for it, but I think the amendment was a committee amendment. I probably need to circle and make sure I got it right. Thank you.
Motion is to circle Senate Bill 187. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The bill is circled. Senator Adams, we just circled first substitute Senate Bill 184 as well, local government inspection amendments. Okay. That concludes, well, we have 2 items circled on concurrence. We'll now move back to the second reading calendar. Senator Hilliard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that we uncircle Senate Bill 2, which is the public education budget amendments.
The motion is to encircle Senate Bill 2, public education budget amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill is uncircled. Senator Hilliard.
Thank you very much. You have we handed out about 30 minutes ago the directory, so you can go through this. It's been kind of interesting because I've had senators come up and ask where their bills were, and some are in actually funding in the bill itself when the bill passes. And I just remind you, if you're carrying any of the House bills that need to be amended to meet the fiscal amounts given to them, it would be well to check with staff and have those amendments all done, so when we start doing them after we pass the other budget bill coming from the House, we're ready to go and can do them. Let me explain this public education budget as we're talking about here. I should indicate, if you looked at our funding on the budget, we gave public education $134.5 million of ongoing revenue. We, in fact, had about 247, so we gave them well over 50%, and that included not only the income tax, but the general fund. It was both of those reached the 247. A figure that I generally use is about 50% of the ongoing revenue should go to public education, which is in keeping with our budget spread. They received more than 50%. We gave $62 million for ongoing funds for 10,300 students that we're anticipating this fall. Now, you may hear somebody say you didn't truly fund all growth, and that's true. There are a lot of items that they may impact, but this is what we traditionally adjusted by the legislature, the amount asked by the state school board and also by the governor. We also gave $62.5 million for a 2.5% increase in the WPU. That's an important line because that only makes up about 80% wages. The other 20% are used in public education on the local level for how they may need to fund and operate their program. Let me just highlight some of the adjusted highlights. Dual language immersion program received $300,000 ongoing. Teacher supply and material received $5 million one time. The Beverly Taylor Sorensen Elementary Arts Learning Program, $4 million one time. Suicide prevention education, $159,000 ongoing. Upstart, $3 million ongoing. IT Academy, $300,000 one time. Charter School Support Specialist, $354,000 ongoing. And the School of Deaf and the Blind received $400,000 for, I think, 5 new teachers in that program. The state guarantee, the voted and board local leeway was increased slightly in keeping there. And the intent language will allow the schools some flexibility in some of the areas they want to address. Be glad to respond to any questions about this bill. Again, it's one I think as you walk out of this session and have people ask you about our top priority, you can tell them it is, was, and always will be public education.
Questions for Senator Hilliard? Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I just wanted to publicly thank Senator Hilliard for his hard work on this. This is an extremely complicated budget, particularly, I know that social services and public education, and he has worked so diligently over the years, and again this year. I just wanted to thank him for his wonderful work and his fair hand in completing this budget. Thank you.
And I'd spread that same thanks to Senator Stevenson as the vice chair and Senator Howard Stevenson, who chaired this very important committee.
Any further questions for Senator Hilliard? Seeing none, Senator, back to you.
Thank you. Do I need to move to suspend the 3 reading requirements? As permitted by the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3 reading requirements for Senate Bill 2.
The motion is, as permitted by the Constitution, to suspend the 3 reading requirements. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Senator Hilliard.
Thank you. I move under suspension of the rules that for the final passage of Senate Bill 2.
The motion is under suspension of the rules. Final passage of Senate Bill 2. Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. Aye. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard.
Aye.
Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
Senate Bill 2, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes, will be signed by the President in open session and referred to the House for the, referred to the House. No.
Referred to the House.
The bill passes, will be sent to the House for further consideration. Have to figure out where we're at here. Okay, let's go to...
Next one. I got one more.
Senator Hilliard.
Thank you. I move under suspension of the rules, we uncircle Senate Bill 3, Current Fiscal Year Supplemental Appropriations Act.
Motion is to encircle Senate Bill 3, Current Fiscal Year Supplemental Appropriations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill is encircled. Senator Hilliard.
Thank you. Again, this is probably the one that's more directly involved with the handout you received of the various appropriations. I want to say, I mentioned Senator Stevenson's, both of them, who worked on the education budget, but I think I mention every one of you in here. You've all spent time, interest, and effort in these appropriations acts. I would dare to venture or bet that you probably know more about your budgets than most legislators in most states because of your personal involvement specifically in certain areas, but the general discussion we've done. I think you're to be complimented for that. I can't say enough about Jonathan Ball and his staff. They have worked tirelessly in putting this budget together, and it was especially difficult this year because we didn't come to really agreement until over the weekend, and the tremendous amount of work they have to do. But I want to personally thank them, and I think as a body, thank them for their tremendous job that they've done this year in putting this budget together. Again, be glad to respond to any particular questions about any of the items. I hope we've gotten everything almost finished. There'll be a bill of bills. They'll have to catch up a few things that we haven't finished up yet, but this is probably 99% of our budget.
Questions for Senator Hilliard? Senator, seeing none, back to you.
Thank you. I would, as permitted by the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3 reading requirements for Senate Bill 3.
Motion is to suspend the 3 reading requirements as permitted by the Constitution. All say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Senator Hilliard.
I move under suspension of the rules, final passage of Senate Bill number 3.
The motion is under suspension of the rules, final passage of Senate Bill 3. Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard.
Aye.
Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser. Oh, thank you.
Senate Bill 3, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes this body and will be referred to the House. Personal privilege, Senator, where are you? Van Tassel.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Pro Tem. I have up in the audience, and I think there are a number over here, the Mazer Elementary School. Are you here? Please stand and wave. They've come clear from Vernal and are here, and we welcome them and thank them for coming. So thank you all.
Welcome. Senator Jenkins.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. I have a group that's here from West Strebe Elementary School, 4th grade. I think they're standing right there. There you go. You know, I have to be careful. That's where my grandkids go.
Senator Hilliard, did you have something else?
I did. Thank you, Mr. President. What we plan on doing as soon as the House bills come over, and they had planned to do them at 10 o'clock, but apparently there was a death of a staff member. And so they took a brief recess to attend the funeral for some of the people. But Representative Brown indicates to me they'll do the bills as soon as they can when they come back from lunch. As soon as we get them here, I want to pass them and get them done, and then we can start on the fiscal note bills.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, Senators, let's go back to the second reading calendar. First substitute, House Bill 157.
First substitute, House Bill 157, Rape Kit Processing Amendments. Senator Urquhart.
Senator Urquhart.
Thank you. Currently in state code, there are processes outlined related to the communication between law enforcement and victims of rape, and some of that language is not clear. And so what this bill does is it provides guidance for law enforcement agencies on communicating with victims of sexual assault about the evidence collected in their case. It establishes the opportunity for victims of sexual assault who have undergone a forensic exam to receive information on whether the evidence collected has been submitted for DNA analysis, and if the analysis has yielded results. And it requires that a victim be notified if an investigating agency chooses not to have the evidence analyzed, or if the agency intends to destroy or dispose of the evidence. And I'll point out that this was brought to Representative Seelig by law enforcement and is widely supported by both law enforcement and crime victim advocates. With that, I'm open to questions.
Questions for Senator Hilliard. Senator Hilliard. Senator Urquhart. Senator Knudsen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I might, Mr. President, I have a question for Senator Urquhart.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Proceed.
Thank you. Recently, I read an article in one of the newspapers, and the subject was the rape kit subject. And from the article, the message I got was that a lot of the rape kits are put in a closet and are literally forgotten for quite a period of time. I know they gave an example of a woman who had been raped, and they had done the examinations and provided a rape kit, and it was 10 years before they ever got into the cupboard and checked it out. And ultimately, the perpetrator was caught, even after 10 years. And the question I have is, are you aware of any backlog that we have in Utah on these cases?
There is a backlog, and that's part of the intention of this bill, is to let the victims have more of an active role in this, so that they can monitor that something is moving forward, and if it's not, that they can help move something forward.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's remarkable, the numbers that were in that article that have sat on a shelf for years, and most of them are still sitting on shelves. So I'm glad to hear what, hopefully Utah is not amongst them.
Thank you, Senator. Further questions for Senator Urquhart? Seeing none, Senator, back to you.
I'll waive summation. As permitted by the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3-reading requirement.
The motion is to suspend the 3-reading requirement as required by the Constitution. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Under suspension of the rules, I move final passage of first substitute HB 157.
Under suspension of the rules, final passage of House Bill 157 is moved. Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. DeBackus. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Madsen. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. President Niederhauser.
First substitute House Bill 157, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, will be signed by the President in open session, referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 148.
House Bill 148, off-highway vehicle amendments. Senator Hinkins.
Senator Hinkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. What we have is down in areas like Moab, Utah, you're allowed to run ATVs around on the streets on certain areas and without regular license plates, and if they're not street legal, as long as they have like signals and certain things that they have. And what this bill does is opens it up a little bit to bigger vehicles like Jeeps, SUVs, and rock crawlers, so that there's a lot of times there's limited parking spaces, and what they can do is, like during Easter, there's Jeep safaris and stuff like that down there. They can travel across other roads without being ticketed. And so with this is kind of a solution for specified full-size modified vehicles, and allows to be registered as street legal ATVs when they're in compliance with the standards of street legal ATVs. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Questions for Senator Hinkins? Seeing none, Senator.
I'd waive, and as permitted by the Constitution, I move to suspend the 3 reading requirement.
And the motion is to suspend the 3 reading requirements as permitted by the Constitution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Senator Hinkins.
Under suspension of the rules, I move final passage of House Bill 148.
And under suspension of the rules, the motion is final passage, House Bill 148. Roll call vote.
Senator Adams. Bramble.
Aye.
Christensen. Tabakis. Davis. Dayton. Harper. Henderson. Hilliard. Hinkins. Jenkins. Jones. Knudsen. Manson. Maine. Okerlund. Osmond. Thank you. Thank you. Reed. Robles. Shiozawa. Howard Stevenson. Jerry Stevenson. Thatcher. I'm sorry, Senator Thatcher. Senator Thatcher. Thank you. Urquhart. Valentine. Van Tassel. Vickers. Weiler. Thank you. President Niederhauser.
House Bill 148, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, will be signed by the President in open session, referred to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 126.
House Bill 126, retirement amendments. Senator Valentine.
Senator Okerlund.
Motion to circle.
The motion to circle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The bill is circled. First substitute, House Bill 357.
First substitute, House Bill 357, budgetary amendments. Senator Bramble.
Senator Okerlund.
Motion to circle.
Motion is to circle. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The bill is circled. House Joint Resolution 6.
HJR 6, joint resolution approving commercial non-hazardous solid waste disposal facility at a new location. Senator J. Stevenson.
Senator Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President Pro Tem. Stericycle is a facility in North Salt Lake that burns medical waste. And it's a large incinerator, and the neighborhood has moved way close to it. What HJR 6 does is it gives the state the authority to issue a permit that will start the process to move them to a new location. They have put earnest money down on a parcel of property in Tooele County. We had citizens from Tooele County and commissioners testify before the committee last Friday, and I believe they've got everything worked out to where that process could take place. This is just the beginning of a permitting process. They would need local approval in Tooele County. They would need all the necessary permits from DEQ, and they would need approval from the governor before they can move. It's very interesting, as I've started through this bill, they have about 40 employees that are well paid, and if they didn't have a smokestack, we would be recruiting a business that does maybe not exactly what they do, but we would be recruiting businesses for economic development. This certainly doesn't fit our economic development plan for along the Wasatch Front, but most of what is created, the medical waste created, comes from the state of Utah. I really believe they're good corporate customers. They can be. We listened to Senator Weiler the other day and when he passed his bill, but the bottom line is they need to not be in North Salt Lake. The neighbors have moved right up to the fence. We would like to, if you read the bill, the resolution states that they will move to an area where they will not have neighbors. I think Senator Weiler's bill said that they could not have neighbors for 2 miles. So they're on Sitla property. They purchased Sitla property or have put money down on Sitla property. As they move through this process, they would buy that property and move their facilities there. And so that's what the bill does, and I would certainly encourage you to, I would certainly take questions.
Questions for Senator Stevenson. Senator Robles.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. A question for the sponsor.
Proceed.
Thank you.
Will the sponsor yield?
I would yield, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I'm looking at the resolution. So the resolution, just to clarify, does it provide a time frame where this company needs to move per the resolution?
It does. I believe the time frame is 5 years. However, through discussion, they would like to be out of here much more quickly than that.
Follow-up question, Mr. President Pro Tem. I'm just trying to find the line, and I apologize at first. Do you know the exact line? It's not that big of a bill, so 3 to...
Senator Stevenson.
Excuse me, I didn't get the entire question.
Yeah, just the line where it says the 5 years. I don't see the number of years for them to move.
I don't have that. That was a discussion point from our hearing the other day.
Well,
so it's a 5-year. You expect a 5-year time frame, but it's not in the resolution.
I thought it was in the resolution. My apologies.
Okay.
Okay, well, if I can make a comment, Mr. President Pro Tem, per the question. I'm reading here, and I can't see the year being explicitly defined, and I believe that's important. I think it's the right approach. We've been working on this issue, but I do have concerns that it gives an explicit time frame for them to move, and I feel uneasy with that component. Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem.
Thank you. Senator Maine.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I have a couple questions for the sponsor, if I may.
Will the sponsor yield?
Excuse me, could you give me the question again, please?
I just asked if you, pardon.
Will you yield for questions from
yield.
Senator Maine? Senator Maine?
Thank you very much. To the sponsor, I have a question. Are they going to move the facility and make it more modern, different technology? Are they going to update it when they do move this facility?
Yes, the answer to that question is certainly yes. The plant was built in the late 1980, early 1990 timeframe that they're in now with that technology. The technology they would build in the new facility would be 2014 technology, which is much more restrictive on what they can put up their smokestack.
Thank you. I just have one more, if it pleases the President. The other question I have, out in my Senate district, we have ATK, and it has a huge buffer area. It's always been there. It's never been challenged. We don't zone into it. And I think this is something that all the communities should look at. When we have a facility, what's happened? We have a facility there, whether it be refineries or whatever, and then the communities, they zone, and they zone right up to these big facilities. And then there's a lot of problems. Well, that happens when there's not zoning, proper planning, because these big facilities are going to be there. We have to put them somewhere. So I think zoning needs to be important, code enforcement, so we don't have developers building right up to them. I think that we need to, as a state and as communities, we need to realize that and make sure our zoning has to be appropriate for what kind of industries do we have. So I'm asking, when they move out there, even though with the new technologies, will the commissioners and those officials realize that they will have to have some land around there, some buffer areas, so that they don't have the same problem in the future, even with the advanced technology?
I believe that Senator Weiler's bill addressed that the other day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Maine. Senator Weiler.
Thank you. I rise in full support of HJR 6. There's several steps that Stericycle has to go through to move. The first was to acquire property, which they've done. The second step is HJR 6. Under our current statutory scheme, they cannot even apply for a permit with DEQ or DAQ until they have a legislative statement of intent that the legislature will allow them to move. So this is a very important resolution. If this resolution fails, Stericycle cannot move. They'll be forced to stay where they are. So I fully support this. This in no way interferes with my Senate Bill 196, which says when they move, they have to at least have a 2-mile buffer from a residential subdivision. So please vote in favor of HJR 6.
Thank you, Senator. Senator DeBacchus.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I don't have issues on the zoning issues. I understand a company gets here and the neighbors move in. My issues come more from our state regulators who have issued citation after citation where Stericycle has exceeded the dioxin levels regularly and then, according to the state, quote, rigged the stack test, which means they lied about it. That's my problem with them, and without a timetable, an exact timetable of when they're going to be out of there, I can't vote for HJR 6.
Senator Robles, second bite at the apple.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I just want to see if it's appropriate to make a request to send it to third reading. So I would like to work with the sponsor if we can add an amendment with a time frame. If it's been discussed, then I don't see how it would hurt the bill. I agree with what Senator Weiler said. This is needed. I mean, I'm sure there is interest. And I also agree with what Senator Maine said. We need to actually maybe reconsider some of the pieces with regards to zoning and whether they are cities or municipalities are being responsible when it comes to putting housings and developments clear, so close to those type of companies. And that was discussed in extent in many of these committee hearings with some of those bills, including my bill that had similar language. But I do think it's necessary that we have that HJR 6 passes, but I do feel like we could certainly add a time frame and would love to see that on a third reading component. Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem.
Senator Hinkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would be opposed to an amendment setting a timetable when the company themselves are not the ones that's going to be responsible or be able to do this, because it's going to be up to zoning in the Tooele County area. It's going to be up to our Department of Environmental Quality of when they issue the permits. I mean, how do they know they're going to be able to get a permit within 5 years? I would be very opposed to that. I'd just say I like the resolution. It's encouraging them. It's encouraging our Department of Environmental Quality to speed the things up to be able to get them relocated. And with that, I support the resolution as is.
Thank you, Senator. See no further. Senator Jenkins.
Just a quick note. Our committee heard this, the Natural Resources Committee, and we passed it out, felt it was appropriate, and as is said, as part of the process. And so I don't think we should let perfect be the enemy of good. This is a good resolution. Might not be perfect, but it's getting the process started and putting it in the right way. And so I urge your support.
See no further comments. Senator Stevenson, back to you.
Thank you. I would, I think my two good colleagues just gave my summation, and I would weigh that a move for passage of.
Do you want to move it to third or all the way across?
If I can find my notes, I'll move it all the way across if we think that would work. Thank you. My motion would be.
Senator?
Yes.
We had a request for a possible amendment, and so it may be appropriate. Whether that amendment would pass or fail would be up to the body. But where there's been some discussion, it may be a good idea to move it to the third reading, and if we're going to have a debate on the amendment, to have that opportunity.
Thank you, Senator. I would move that we move SBR 6, SJR 6 to the third reading calendar.
The motion is, shall House Joint Resolution 6 be read for a third time?
Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Senator Adams? Bramble?
Aye.
Christensen? DeBackus? Davis? Dayton? Harper? Harper? Henderson? Hilliard? Hinkins? Jenkins? Jones? Knudsen? Madsen? Maine? Okerlund? Osmond? Reed? Robles? Shiozawa? Howard Stevenson? Jerry Stevenson? Thatcher? Urquhart? Valentine? Van Tassel? Vickers? Weiler? And Senator Davis, was that aye on 2 or no on 2? Aye on 2. And Senator Weiler? And President Niederhauser.
House Joint Resolution 6, having received 22 yea votes, 2 nay votes, 5 being absent, will be read for a third time. Senator Okerlund.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I have no announcements today, so I move that the Senate recess until 2 p.m. this afternoon.
Motion is to recess until 2 p.m. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We stand in recess until 2 p.m.
Caucuses, yes, caucuses will be at 12:30. Guess you guys are ready.